Hello beautiful people, this is Yahiya from VR Division and welcome back to a new lesson. Today we are very excited to share with you part 1 of 9-part series where we're going to learn everything you want to learn about Unreal Engine in visualizing built or unbuilt architecture. This is perfect for architects, 3D artists and designers who are looking for a guide to learn Unreal Engine. I will walk you step by step on how to create your project, how to prepare your data, how to be comfortable with the engine, how to locate your project in the real world and add a global context, how to light the project, how to create materials, and how to create your cinematics. We will also talk about blueprint and user interfaces, and finally, I will show you how you can package your projects and share it with others. I want to express my deep gratitude for my team at VR Division and Cesium for believing in my vision to inspire 1 million people learn Unreal Engine and make amazing things with it. When Unreal Engine became free in 2015, that truly changed my life and it made it better. I am forever grateful and I'm truly excited to share with you what I learned along the way. So without further ado, let's get started. If you want to follow along, you can go to the Academy, the Downloads section. You can download any project that you want to follow along with and any other additional files. So to get started, I'm going to open Epic Games Launcher and we can click on Launch. That will open Unreal Project Browser for us. In our case, we're going to click on Architecture, Blank, set a project location and give our project a name. Click on Create. Now, in my case, I already have a project. Now, when you open Unreal Engine, you're going to see the viewport. This is a perspective to the projects we are going to create. So we are already familiar with this if you are an architect or a 3D artist. I think it's better if we import the project before we do anything else, because imagine you're just opening Unreal Engine for the first time and you don't want to learn anything except for importing a project and flying around. That's exactly what we're going to do. I really believe this skill is important because I see a mistake many artists and many architects do when they use real-time engines where they wait to the end of their projects until they share it to Unreal Engine. And this is just not a good practice. We will talk about this as we go. Now, if you're using 3ds Max, Datasmith is the best way to export your projects. The same goes for Revit, SketchUp, and any program where we have Datasmith support. If you're using program where we don't have Datasmith, in my opinion, USD files, JLTF files are the best. In this scenario, in my case here, and in anyone's scenario, let's say we have a project and this project is work in progress. It's not fully finished, but it's in a good state. Or maybe we just got started on it. Now, the sooner you create your Unreal Engine project and you import your 3D project, whatever it is, the better it is for you to know how to plan your project, to plan your updates, and also to understand the project. There is something special about spatial understanding, the ability to fly around instead of rotating like so. When you go to the ribbon in Unreal Engine case, maybe if you're using Datasmith, you can find Datasmith somewhere else, but you want to export a Datasmith file. So click on Export, click on Desktop, and click on any folder you want. In this case, I have a folder called DT. This stands for Datasmith. And here I'm going to type Maple Villas, for example. Maple Villas. So you will also find this in the tutorial downloads if you want to follow along and just check out files as they progress. So this will take from few minutes to few seconds depending on the scale of your project. Usually it's just a few seconds. Now we can open Unreal Engine and here is Unreal Engine, and here I want to delete everything or simply create another level. And a level is an asset that we can create inside Unreal Engine and it will contain our actors, and our actors can be cameras, can be environmental effects, and can be static meshes. And you can see that here. So here in this panel, we have the world outliner. if you click on any of the actors here or here, you can see the details of that actor. So this is context sensitive. If you click on the camera, you're going to see lens settings and a preview of that camera, which is beautiful. If you click on sun and sky, you're going to see latitude, longitude, and so on. And this template is because we've created our project from the architecture template. Now, if we want to create a new level, a new map, we can press on Control Space. This will open the project browser for us. This is the content drawer or content browser. When we create any Unreal Engine project, that project will open here first, Maple Villas. And also, if we open Epic Games Launcher, we will see that the project have been added to our library. If you right-click and click on Show in Folder, this will open a folder for you where you've created your Unreal Engine project. And under that folder, there is the Unreal project. You can save this anywhere as a shortcut, or you can open it from here. This is obviously where you need to open it from. And where all your files that you're going to be imported, they will all be saved under the content folder here. Now, let's go back to Unreal Engine. In the content browser, let's right click and let's create a new folder. And I'm going to name this folder Project Maple Villas. And I will double click this folder and create a couple of new folders. One called Maps and one just called DT for Datasmith. I will double click Maps and I will right click, create a basic asset. I will create a level. So the level we are at now called main, and whatever we name it, the new level, and open it, it will also be named here. Let's say this is the main level. Now, if you don't have filters, something beautiful about the content browser is the filters button here. So usually, or maybe you have just no filters. In my case, I had something like, let's say, a blueprint class. If there is anything about blueprints here, I can view that from here. If I want just the levels, I can click on the filter and here I have a level. If I want levels and static meshes, it will show me that. Now there are no static meshes, so there is nothing to see. But if I disable this and keep this, it will show me nothing. Beautiful stuff. Now let's open our newly created level, double click, and welcome to the dark side. There is absolutely nothing here, zero actors, zero details, zero nothing. Assuming you've created your project using the Unreal template, if you go to the add menu here, quickly add to the project it's called, I just call it add menu, you can see Datasmith and you can import and direct live link, which is amazing, but we're gonna use this for now. And if you don't have this, if you simply go to edit plugins and here you can search for Datasmith, you can find Datasmith for Cinema 4D, Datasmith Content, Datasmith Importer. This is the one we want. Datasmith Runtime. So this is Datasmith. It can work even after you export your project. This is some amazing stuff here. Now, this is enabled. If it's not, enable this, restart your engine, and let's come back here. Let's click here and import assets. We want to click on Datasmith, file import, and we want to go to where we saved our asset. So I've created a new folder, Maple Villas. I like to click on date modified just to see the recent files. This is kind of easier. Well, not in this case. Actually, wait. But these files, I can just delete them because they're old. Okay, there we go. Now it will ask me to save this, to select a location. So we can go to Project, DT, click OK. Usually, or it might be something like this, you can export your projects if they have materials and lights and cameras. You can do that, but in my scenario and with my many years of working with Unreal Engine, the more projects you do in Unreal Engine, the more assets you will grow, like materials and assets in general, your library, and the less time projects will take. So you might create a project for the first time and it might take you too long, but your second project, your third project will take less and less. So We've learned, and we do this 100%, any architectural project we work on, we just simply create the walls and the details and anything that matters that has to be created in a DCC application or Beam application, and everything else can be taken from our master library or just custom made depending on the project. But yeah, you can also do the same. So in my case, I know I have none of these because I create my lights and cameras in Unreal. Same goes for materials and textures and for animations. If you plan on baking the lights, you can check out light maps, but for now, there is no light bake. We will talk about this later in the training program. But for now, you too can ignore this if you don't know what I'm talking about, which is, you actually should Google it. Anyway, click import, wait for it a few seconds, and under here, we're going to see there is a new actor with many actors inside it, because we can see here there's an arrow, and it says 708, which is how many objects we have, and maybe some sub-objects or other actors. This can be more or less than what you have here. So here we have 562. So here we have more things, and we can see that we have groups. For example, for the door, it has this, and it's like this. So if you click on any door, they are grouped together. So we will talk in more depth about Datasmith as we go. When you import Datasmith files, they will also open folders for you, and you will see a new asset here is called Datasmith scene, and you can press Ctrl+Shift+S to save everything. So it's saving the static meshes and this file here. So the little star thing, I forgot its name. When we have it, it means that this mesh or this asset have been modified. So we can see it here. When you press Ctrl+S, it will go away. So that's how we save our assets. Under geometries, we have the geometries of the project. You could also see materials and other folders depending on the options you enabled or disabled. And from here, these also share the same name and settings of what we also have in 3ds Max. And there is a lot to talk about from here, and it's a step-by-step process. So let's add some lights, and we can do that from clicking on Window, Environment Light Mixer. We can create a skylight, atmospheric light, a sky atmosphere, void cloud, height fog, or you can just check out my plugin. I will leave a link to that in the description. It's just one click to create all these and the post-process volume. Post-process volume is where we can control the auto exposure and the camera settings and even some rendering settings. So that's something we will talk about in a moment. Now let's close this, or let's put it here on the side. And let's wrap up this section by talking about navigation in the viewport. So if you right click, you can look around, and while you're right clicking, you can press on ASDW, Q and E to move around and to go up and down. So D to move left, A to move right, E to move up, Q to move down. So if you play video games, ASDW must be natural for you. Of course it is. And with right clicking, you can look around. So if you also have a bigger project or a smaller project, you can scroll up and down to slow down the movement of the camera or to speed it up. So let's say I like this. Maybe I want to see this place here. I can simply click on this mesh and just hide it, the glass. So that's why it's important also to name your objects in a way that they are like they auto-sort themselves in your word outliner. They're easy to select and hide. So now I just easily hide all the glass in the building or for the first level, and I can do the same here if I want to hide the glass. Okay, now since we've added our atmosphere, I just wanted to show you something. If you go here to glass and let's hide these, you can see there is some fog. So if you search for exponential height fog, here you can go to the details panel and let's reduce the fog density to 0.02, like so. And that's it. That's how you set up your projects in Unreal Engine. You can have a preview file or a temp file. You can have the basic lighting setup, and in here, in the word outliner, you can create a couple of folders to keep things organized. So let's say one folder for the Datasmith file we've created and one folder for the lighting setup. And we can call this lighting and we can call this project. And we can save, press Ctrl+Shift+S or Ctrl+S to save everything. So moving forward, anytime you have a project, whether you have access to the 3D program or not, you can ask for a Datasmith file to import that project like we did today. Now, if you don't have a Datasmith file, keep watching because we will discuss other methods in the training program in the data section. Alright, to continue working on our project, there are some things we need to know first, like the editor basics. Now, as we discussed earlier, you can right-click to look around and you can press on ASDW to move around. If I don't right-click and move around, this will not happen. Instead, we are going to see a change here between our main tools. Just select and move, select and rotate, select and scale. Q, W, E, and R. So when you select any object and you press on W, this will select and move, and we're going to see the pivot of this object somewhere. If you do not see the pivot, you can press on G multiple times or just once to switch or toggle between the game mode. And in game mode is the difference between what we see and what our end users are going to see. So I'm going to select, for example, our lighting setup, select these objects, press F to focus on our selection. So later we will build the terrain, don't worry. Let's put these here. And if we just move them away from each other, you might have multiple objects with different icons, different functionalities, and even different shapes that you will see later. These can be seen or unseen by pressing G, and that will toggle game mode. And this is especially useful if you want to take a screenshot. So to take a quick screenshot, you can press F9. And if you press on F10, this will collapse or put our panels on the side of the windows here. So if we have a panel here, we're gonna see that here as well. So I'm going to press F10 and just click on this panel, the environment light mixer. As you can see, when I'm clicking and moving this, we can duck it to wherever we like. More on this later. You cannot do this. You should click here, duck it, press F10, and now try to take a screenshot. Now let's press F10 again and take another screenshot. Press F9. I want you to notice something. So if you take a screenshot and if you click on this here, it will open a folder for you, and this folder will be under where you've created your project, then saved, and you're going to see a folder called screenshots, Windows editor, so depending on your system, and you're going to see multiple screenshots. They will be different in terms of their scale or dimensions, because when you press on F9, this will take screenshot based on your screen size. And this can be good and bad at the same time, depending on what you're doing. So if you want a quick photo for your story, you can simply do this. Then you can click here and you can change field of view. And let's say you can click on lit to switch the view mode to something like lighting only. So we're going to talk about all these in a second. Just bear with me. And now press F9 to take that screenshot. Now, of course, the best way to do it is to add a cinematic camera actor and set the lens and whatnot to simulate a real-world camera. But this is a quick solution here if you like. You can middle mouse button on any panel to close it. So now we don't have that panel. And I'm going to click here on the burger menu and switch the field of view back to 90. There we go. Look at that. It's beautiful. So we need also to switch the view mode to lit. Now, we spoke about pressing F10. How about F11? This will take us into the immersive mode, and this is really awesome where we can see the screen. Sometimes I have calls with my clients or my teams, and we do nothing but pressing on F11, and you can take it one step further and press on Shift F11. This will make it like totally immersive mode and fly around. So now we have the freedom of going in our project, and when you go to a place like this, it's totally fine. You can simply switch to the wireframe mode, and we can do that from here. We can do a lot from these buttons here. To see or to change our views between the major view modes, we can click here where we have lit, and the shortcuts we have for these areas, lit, unlit, wireframe, from Alt 4 or Alt 2 to Alt 6. So wireframe is Alt 2, unlit 3, lit Alt 4, not F4, okay? Detail lighting and lighting only. So let's try that. Let's press on Alt 2. And this is a shortcut I highly recommend learning, like these three, Alt 2 to Alt 6, to switch between all these different views. So Alt 2, now we can see, okay, this is an interior, so much wireframes here. We will take a look in this in 3ds Max when we come to optimization, and we can switch again to lit and see if there is anything. Nope. We can switch to unlit, this mode, and we can see, that's because we have windows, and these windows could be blocking the view. So we can press F10 or F11 to go back here to the outliner and just turn off the glass. Yep. Now switch to lit and press on Ctrl L because we have the lighting system by Unreal Engine. It's really nice to see how this affects the project. I can select objects and hide them. So these shortcuts we will change later to something useful, and you can, like, muscle memory will love you for this. So let's just show all actors, and let's press F11 again, and let's click on the burger menu here. So under this burger menu here, we have options related to the viewport in general, to the layout as you can see here, and things we can affect directly what we are seeing. And to be honest, this is really good. Like, each menu here performs something, does something. So from here there are some settings, MISC settings if you will. So you can click here to show how many frames per second you're getting. You can click again to see some other stats if you want. So there are so many cool stats we can see from here. So engine, FPS, we have that, we had it. We can click summary, and you can start debugging your project. So I recommend just going through the list and see what is familiar for you and maybe what you will learn in future. Just, it will be in your subconscious. That's a good thing in Unreal Engine. Show toolbar, Ctrl-Shift-T. If you press this, if you want to take a better screenshot, or if you want to go totally immersive mode, you can press that Ctrl-Shift-T, and sometimes I click it and I forget, and what's wrong? So now we know. And field of view is really cool setting you can change for quick screenshots or demonstrations of cameras, or I call it scene scouting. If I'm looking for nice cinematics, I change the field of view. So you can create camera from here, by the way. I'm gonna talk about that. And I start changing the speed to something slow and start looking around. And for me, it's really good to see my project from its earliest state like this, like what we see here now, and just fly around, take screenshots, be happy. Like, just flying around in Unreal Engine makes me feel good about any project I'm making, and giving me ideas on where are the hero places that we need to work on, the hero shots, and what type of cameras we're going to use. So seeing the project in an early stage and developing on it and exploring cool spaces and just documenting the process, taking as many screenshots, is something I highly recommend doing. Now, you can also take screenshots in slightly better way, where you can also go here to the burger menu and go to take high resolution screenshot, and you can increase the screenshot size multiplier. So if you're doing, or let's say you have a really small space for any reason, or no, you want really big picture, you can increase this. But once you go to really high values, it might crash your project, because this is multiplying the space. Like, you can reach 16,000 by 16,000 or more. So just be careful with this. What I love about high resolution screenshots, sometimes I keep things exactly as they are, because now I'm working on 4K monitor. This is the option I'm looking for. Use date, timestamp as image name. Now click capture. This we can talk about in future. And now you can see, once you click here, of course, it will be saved here. we have high resolution screenshot with the date. There is this thing about Unreal Engine. Let's say we're going to delete screenshot 2 and 3. And now if I'm going to take another screenshot, so this is one, maybe this, yeah, we will see quickly. I just took 2 another screenshots. In this case, it saves 6 and 7. But trust me, if we restart the project and take new screenshots, it's going to start 2, 3, and then 8. And this will mix your screenshots. This is why it's really good to take high resolution screenshots with the date as stamp. We will address any of other settings we need as we go. However, I highly encourage you exploring all these settings we see. Now, if you click on perspective, we can switch to different orthographic views. So we have the top, bottom, left, front, and back, and they also have their shortcuts. However, for me, I love this method. If you just simply hold Ctrl, then click on the middle mouse button, and what you can see here, there is a line on the screen. Usually it appears from different place, but let's try again. I click, and let's say I release my mouse, it will move me now to the top view. If I click again and move my mouse to the left, it will take me to back view. And I can press on F somewhere. Yeah, there we go. So top view, I will scroll out. There we go. Here is top view, here is left, and here is front. Depending on how you change your mouse, when you click on Ctrl and the middle mouse button, you will move somewhere. So if you move it to the top, that's the top, and if you move it to the bottom, that's the bottom. And if you move it to this corner or this corner, you're going to switch back to perspective. So again, hold Ctrl, middle mouse button, tab, back, front, bottom, perspective. And if you switch to this or this corner, you can go to right and left. So this one for left. The best way to do this is just to simply practice it, and then you'll go quickly wherever you want. It's really easy and really good method to switch between perspective and orthographic views. Now, we also have something called viewport type. We have 2 types as of now, and if you enable the motion design plugin, you're going to have a third mode. The cinematic viewport is very cool. We can see things like overlays. So here we have additional settings now that were not available before in the default mode. They each have their own settings. In the default mode, we had some settings here that are now gone. I will show you what they are. So if I don't want this, I want to switch back, I can go to the perspective here and switch back to default viewport. And here, this is gone. And here, there is nothing. But if you click on any object, well, right now we have just one level. And here, when you have multiple levels and you start clicking on objects, it will show you if this object in this current level. So just so you know, we are able to create levels and put these levels inside one main level. This will be good for lighting scenarios or different architectural options and these type of things. We use levels. What's also really important in addition to switching between views is also the ability to switch between view modes. We already discussed this. So if you press Alt 2, you're gonna see the wireframe. Alt 5, we see now detailed lighting, and there is lighting only. And the difference here mainly the normal maps and some other effects, they don't work. Well, they don't work, most of them, in the lighting only. So we just see the lighting. And here, if you have any cool textures, you will see some of their effects. And it's also very nice for screenshots. In addition to these, we have all these options that I will discuss in later stages once we get into lighting. In addition to view modes, we also have different and other options. And one of them is the grid. So if you click here, we can see that I have the grid. If I click and remove the grid, goodbye grid, there is no grid anymore. So maybe you want this, maybe no. We want the grid always to stay, and so on. So if you change anything here, you can always go back to use defaults, and now we have the grid again, as you can see. And for my preference, I prefer to disable it. It's just mindset, and there we go. Look at this. Now we know how to fly and how to change views, all that good stuff. So let's find a nice view. Press on F11 or Shift F11 just in case. Press on Ctrl Shift T. press on F9, why not take screenshot for memories? This is some good stuff. And since it's memories, let's take a high resolution screenshot. Actually, let's make a camera. Why not? So now you know, you click here, create a camera. And if you want to switch to the camera view, we can press Ctrl-Shift-T again, which is a shortcut I almost never used, to be honest. You can click on the view perspective, and now you can see we have our placed cameras. This is one of them. And now we can see that we are piloting a camera. And this is a good time to switch to cinematic viewport. It will switch again the camera view, but now we can click here and switch back. You can find a nice angle. And as you can see, because we have our camera selected, we have some settings here in the details panel. So you need to find current focal length, and you can make some nice zoom like this. Or you can place the camera in a place like this and reduce this back again to the default value. So let's use 12 instead. And let's press on high resolution screenshot. We need to use date timestamp as image name. Enable that. Click capture, and there we go. Click to open it. Let's check it out. Look at this. All right, to continue working on our project, we need to learn how to manipulate objects, move them around. To do that, let's get out of the camera. The first example actually can be the camera. And I like to switch for now to our default viewport. And I will press F to focus my selection, which is the camera. So click on the camera and we can see a view. And we can see we have, as we said earlier, Q to select, W to select and translate. And by translate, you can think about it as move. And move any actor to the world coordinates. So in the 3D environments, in the 3D world, if I want to go to the top view, for example, let's press F again. We can see this is our villa. Let's show the grid. And here, this is the 0, 0, 0 point. And all other actors, we can see they are distant from the 0, 0, 0 point. Now, you might notice, I just want to say this now, that this is preferred to be here. Well, yes, if your project is the center of the world, but if there is other sections of your project or whatever it is, you need to stay close as much as possible to this area when you're creating your projects. And this is not far enough because we have another villa and some other details. So this is fine. However, in the file you might download, you might have the location of the villa in the exact center. So just don't worry about this. You see how easy it is to switch between top and perspective views and so on, just by holding Ctrl, middle mouse button. Now, I will press F again. Let's find our camera, and we can find it by typing camera. In the world outliner, you can search for any actor. If you press on E, you can now rotate an actor. And if you press on R, in this case, it will not do anything, but you can make an actor very large. Look at this. So I will press F and look at that again. Now, another movement controls. If you hold Alt and left mouse button, you can orbit around an object or the center of the screen. This is a setting you can change in the editor preferences. And if you hold Alt again and right mouse button, you can zoom in and out. These two settings I use a lot. And middle mouse button with or without Alt will always stay pan. So these three are really important to navigate your project and just be able to move around. It's very cool. So I highly recommend practicing this type of movement in Unreal Engine. You have this type of movement, and then you have Alt and these. So I'm moving my mouse up and down or left and right, depending on if I want to orbit or zoom in and out. So let's go back to pressing E to rotate, and notice the rotation here. If you look at the numbers in the details panel, we have transform, location, rotation, and scale. Look at the numbers, how they're going to snap 10 units every time. If I rotate on the X here, you can see it's getting weird, but it's always 10 units. Let's reset everything. Now, if you want to have more freedom, you can simply turn off the snapping on the grid. So we have three types of snaps. We have one for scale, rotation, and the grid. If we turn this off, simply clicking here, you're gonna see we have 10 degrees and different options. Now, this will move exactly as we want on the 0.00 whatever numbers we want. This is good for accuracy, let's say, or well, for accuracy, you may want to at least have something, one of these numbers. It depends on your scenario. Now, for an object, now it moves 10 units every time. You can switch this to move it 50 units every time. And this is good or important for large worlds. We have the snap size. And if we click on R to scale, so now you can see it's also snapping to equal values here. They will always be equal unless you do this. But if you disable, you can see now we have more control. So this is good for organic objects, for example. You may want to turn off the snapping and put some trees or grass or rocks. And I will enable this here again. Now, here, if I switch between rotation and location, there is this button where we have a globe and we have a cube with 3 on it. So this will switch between global and local axes. So this is local axis now when we have the cube. And if we move on the x-axis of the camera, here we can see the global axis. So we have multiple axes will change their values as we move our camera. So let me do this. And if we click like so, and we still move it on the x-axis, now it moves on 3 axes. But that's exactly what we want. If we click here again, so there is a shortcut for this, Alt, comma, you can switch to the global axis. And maybe you want to move your camera just on this axis. So they are both useful. And for each, there is a scenario. If you click here, it will maximize or minimize the views. So you can move on multiple views at the same time if you want. But I kind of never use this, to be honest. I always maximize my view and I switch to any view I want. Now, there are cases where you need to use this. Maybe when you're scattering some meshes or doing some specific scenario where you need to do this. But yes, just so you know, it's here. Next to the gizmo toggle, we have this option where we can control how objects will snap to the surface. We have surface snapping. To better demonstrate, I will press Ctrl space, and right now we don't have any content in our project. We can add some. So go to add and add feature or content pack, and let's go to content, starter content, and add this to our project. This will have some materials and some meshes that we can place in our world. So let's close this. Let's add the asset platform, and let's add from the props the chair, the famous chair, and let's switch to LED mode so we can see a little bit what's happening. And I will close the content browser. So I press Ctrl B, and right now you can see when you add the chair, it can be added almost anywhere on this axis or the Z axis, because that's where it's snapping, right? If you want, once you place it, so let's place it here. Once you move it now, there is no way it will snap here for you unless you do a setting, but you can do it manually. If you are doing this, or if you're placing harder objects on irregular surfaces and you want more control, you can go here and you can enable surface snapping. And now, let's say we want to snap on the floor or this platform, then we need to select the perpendicular, I don't know how to say it exactly, but let's say this is the Z axis. We can use X and Y to snap on the Z axis. So now, if we want to achieve the same functionality without adding the chair like this, all we need to do is to click on surface snapping. And let's say we want to put it on the top. So we need to move the chair on the X and Y because the top is looking at the Z axis. And the same goes for the wall. So the wall, if we want to place the chair here, then we need to choose the X axis. I will demonstrate. So I will click on the chair. We have surface snapping enabled. I will select X and Y. So in between, you can select X, Y. Here in between, you can do select and it will snap or just move on the X and Y. Now, when I move this, on top of this object, it will snap exactly to the surface or the normal of the object I'm snapping on. Let's say we want here. So if I choose again X and Y, we can place this not here, but we can place it exactly on the top. Maybe this is something we want. So let's say we want to place the chair here. Whoop, select, whoop, there we go. Easy peasy. Now, let's say for any reason you want to place it on the wall. So the wall, if we select it, it's looking at the X-axis. We select Y and Z axis. Do this. The moment you start moving, it will snap to the nearest surface, which is the wall in this case. So we can do the same. It's kind of challenging, to be honest. So we always need to see what we see and then do this, and there we go. You can not use it if you select just one axis. It's totally fine. So far, we've learned how to look around, how to navigate between different views, and how to translate and move objects around. So something I recommend is disabling this. So let's recap this section and the previous ones. Whenever you add objects to your world, they will be listed in the world outliner. And I quickly did this by simply going to the very top. So the more folders there is, you can simply click on the top view and then the top view, hold shift, click on any, it will collapse that. Or if you simply right click actually, somewhere there is collapse anyway. So hold shift, do this without holding shift now, just normal left click, everything is closed. So it's really important when you want to add anything to your project, whether it's 3D meshes, VFX items, sound, whatever it is, you can right click any folder and make current folder. Do you know the saying, clean as you cook? Do this often, keep your project organized as much as possible, and there are some steps that will save you from organizing your projects while you're working, right? So this will, by simply right click, make current folder if you want to add all your objects here, and then you can either clear it or make another one as the current folder, and yeah, it will just make it easy to select and delete or do whatever you want. The more organized the files you get, the easier it is to work with the project, and by easier, you will finish any project faster, especially when the project gets larger. So I hope the skills we learned so far will allow you to learn to navigate any project, to click on any object, understand its name. You can press F2 to rename it. You can right click to do more operations. Right click is a very powerful shortcut, by the way. You can do it almost anywhere, and it's also context sensitive. When you click on any actor, you're going to see the details of that actor here. So if it's a skylight, we can change the skylight from here. So we can make it 0 or we can make it 5. And it can be anything. All these actors, they all share transform, and then based on the actor, you're gonna see different settings. So if it's a static mesh, or if it's a light, or volumetric, height fog, so on. The favorites here, because there are so many settings, usually it's not here. In your scenario, it may not be. If it's not, you can enable it from here, toggle favorites. This is really important, and I use favorites all the time in Unreal Engine because they save me time. Now, on the top left, we have our top toolbar, and we have the name of our level and anything we dock to this view. So if you add a material or if you double click an object, you can click and drag and dock this here. It's like a browser, web browser is the same. And as you can see, anytime you click a new type of asset, you're gonna see different main menu. Now, the main menu here, I will leave exploring this to you, but this is extremely useful, especially the select menu here. This is really good. Select all of the same material, select all similar actors. So let's say this is context sensitive as well, by the way. So if I click on here and go back to select, it will select all static meshes. If I select the directional light and go back to select all directional lights. So Ctrl Shift A for this. Very good stuff. And now we can safely say, if you explore the main menu, especially the editor preferences, what you can change in the engine, just out of curiosity, also the project settings. So these are settings that are related for your project. You can switch the project thumbnail to something very cool. You can change so many settings from here, like ray tracing, lumen settings. The input settings used to be here. They are now somewhere else. So rendering, physics, network, all these good stuff. Let's close this. Under window, here you can create multiple details panel, multiple viewports, multiple outliners. If you have multi-screen setup, what's beautiful about Unreal Engine user interface, it's highly customizable and you have so many panels and windows that you can show and work with. So here is a second content browser. I can dock this here or on my second monitor. Here is a second viewport, because why not? And I can set this on my camera all the time and I can keep working and recording. This is cool for time lapse. Me looking at it now and like thinking like, yeah, this is actually cool for time lapse. So I'm getting some ideas already. This is something I love about Unreal Engine. The more you work with it, the more ideas there. You just feel like, wow, there is so much. And that's the beauty of it. It's an easy to learn program and there is so much. Now, there are the main menus here. And here, our top toolbar, it's a collection of like the most common tools we use. Save, find selected map, this is very useful. And something to know about content browser. If you want for this to be active, all you need to do is to simply click here and that's it. Let's say you want for the content drawer to be active, all you need to do is to click somewhere here. And now, if I click Ctrl B, it will show me this. This will not be activated. If I press on this object, press Ctrl B, to show me this, and so on. So there is always like, what is the active panel? And that can be determined by the blue here. Notice also if you hide a tab, you can click here to show it. You can do the same here to the sidebar, hide. So we can keep only one viewport, put it next to it like so. If you messed with the UI or it's totally different, or you want to save a layout, you can go to window and you can do that from here. You can reset the layout, you can save it, or you can even remove layouts. In my case, I will just use the default editor layout. There we go. So here we have editor modes. This is a lesson for later. Next to that, we can add actors to our project, explore this. From here, we can bring our projects to life by programming functionality visually with the blueprint. And from here, we can create beautiful cinematics. So from here you can create a sequence file or sequencer, and that's the editor we're going to work with to build our cinematic shots, animate them, or animate anything in our world. You can always click here on play or simulate to test your project, your developments. And if you're developing for something else, you can also export that content or test it from here under platforms. Alright, so with everything we learned about the user interface and navigation and clearing folders away, we can move on to the next section. I will see you there. Alright, so let's keep working on our project. There are two things I'd like to do. The first thing is to add a glass material on my glass objects, and the second thing is adding a post-process volume. Since we added the starter content in the earlier steps, we can go to materials, and under here we can find basic glass material. If you double click this, we're gonna see we have the material output node, and then we have nodes that we can create and connect to this node to create our materials. We will talk in much more depth about materials later in the video. So now let's close this and let's select our glass objects. And one easy way to do that, because I have the code for glass GLS, or it can be 3 letters or 4 letters, I can simply search for this in my word outliner and select anything that has GLS on it and assign the material. So if you select just one static object or many static meshes, you can see they have shared settings, especially the static mesh and the materials. If we add to our selection anything that's not a static mesh actor, like this Datasmith scene actor, I will hold Ctrl and click, you're going to see that the settings are gone, and now we only have transform. So I'm going to deselect this, and under materials we have 2 elements, One can be for the glass and one can be for the metal. So let's try element 0. This is working for the glass, and if we have anything that represents, let's say, brushed nickel, we can assign this here. If you cannot see because of the lighting and whatnot, what you can do, and this is where unlet is really important. So for the second element, I don't think we need it. Let's just keep it glass. Or if you really want to know what is your second element is, you can click on any of these objects. So it seems that not all my meshes here have two material IDs except for this. So we can press F and check this out. This here is reversed. So these are things we need to set up in our DCC application to unify our material IDs. I'm kind of glad this happened, so we can see when you have everything at element 0, then element 0 is always for glass. And element 1 is for the whatever metal we want to put. So for this scenario here, what we can do is select these objects and we can simply click on reset this property to the default and assign the glass here. So let's select the glass and assign it on element 1 just for now. Later in my DCC application, whether Blender or Max, I can fix the IDs. So in 3ds Max, this has the ID of 1 or 2, and the glass here have, or the frame here have the ID of 1. In Unreal Engine, we start from element 0. So instead of 1, we start from 0, then 1, 2, 3, and so on. And this here have just one element and is just glass. So let's save everything and let's press on Alt 4 to switch to mode. And let's check out the reflections on this simple glass. If you want to disable the refraction of the glass, we can simply click on any object we want to modify, click on the material we assigned, and let's say here, refraction, we simply would click on Alt to disable this. For now, I just want simple transparent object. Let's say this. So now if we save, look at this. Of course, we will modify and improve on this as we go. Now, the second thing I'd like to do is to have some sort of post-process volume, a consistent exposure. So when I go outside and I go inside, I want the same auto exposure. And the glass is kind of acting funny. So let's fix the translucency here. I will connect refraction again, and I will simply just use the value of 1. That's it. Put this here, value of 1. Let's save it. And I hope we are good now. Yes, we are actually good. Okay. The post-process volume is also important to control the lens flare you see. So by default, we have some settings that we can change and access through the post-process volume. To add that, you can go to quickly add to the project or add menu, and under search, you can search for post-process volume. Just type post and you're gonna find it under visual effects, under volumes, and under all classes. It's the same actor, so you can access it from visual effects, from here, from volumes. So these are all volumes, and all classes is everything available for you now. If you enable other plugins, you might also find the assets here or new windows. So let's add that beautiful post-process volume, and you can click and drag or simply click and it will add it anywhere in the screen. In this case, I will click. That's it. It's added in the middle this time. That's good. And now I will just disable my favorites so we don't see. Actually, the sneak peek. That's it. And now let's go. What I usually do is I simply close all windows, especially if I'm learning a new actor or any program I'm exploring. I just try to reduce how much information I see at the exact same time or at this time, and I go slowly through these. Now, to save you time, where you need to go to make this post-process volume affects the whole world is to the post-process volume settings. Now, before we go here, let's just make sure we are inside the volume, and let's go to anything. Let's go to lens and let's go to bloom, change the method from standard to convolution, and you will notice something changed. And if we go out, it's back to normal. So that's happening within the volume. If we want the effect to be bigger, then we can make our volume bigger, like so. and perhaps we can change something else. So let's go to lens, let's go to lens flare, and let's set the intensity of this to 0.1, much better, or 0.05, or let's say 0.1, and then set the bokeh size to something like 10 instead of 3, or 1, which is what we see here now. This is 1, it's interesting. 10 is 10 times bigger, it's blurred, and yeah, this is cool. So if we go out, this will go back to normal. To make this affect our whole world in Unreal Engine or a specific space, we can either make this just for this villa or just for this floor, or if we want for this to be a global post-process volume that affects the whole world around us, because we can have as many as we want, we can go to what I mentioned earlier, post-process volume settings, and under infinite extent and bound, you can set this from false to true. Nothing really changed from this view, but wait a second. Let's take a look at the sun. So press Ctrl L, and I'm gonna enable this globally now. So this effect here of the sun is actually from the bloom. If we switch between standard and convolution, this one is more expensive in terms of rendering, but it's kind of more realistic. So I will stick with this for now, and we are good. We are making some progress. One thing I want to highlight is the auto exposure. I'd like to disable it for this shot here, for this interior at least, and the favorites. So this is a good use of the favorites. As you can see here, we have so many settings, and actually a lot of time you're going to use this all the time. So if you right click, you're going to see a setting regarding add to favorites right now. If I do this, and now you're gonna see something like this. So if you add it, and now if you click on this star, you're gonna see all your favorite settings. Infinite extent and bound, this is the one we've added, but I have other settings. For example, the auto exposure, if I want to quickly disable it, I would do this, and then now there is no auto exposure. It's the same exposure all the time. If I look anywhere, it's just the same exposure. So I will reset these. Now we have auto exposure again. Give it some time. And instead of going to lens and then exposure and then find them here, I can usually just find them here really fast. Now we're lucky they are close to lens, but there are some settings here. So yeah, use favorites everywhere whenever possible. So I'm going to set this to manual, and let's say for now of my current values, I have a post-process volume of 10 and whatnot. So 13 is like just a value. It's not, we can talk about photoreal as we go, but this is a linear rendering workflow. What we see is what we get. And in terms of photorealistic units, be patient. Now, let's finish this section by adding a camera and improving on one of the corners of the project here. So let's say this is a view I like, and I want to preserve it. There are two ways we can do this. There is a bookmark, and there is adding a camera. A bookmark is something you can do really fast. So if you go to the burger menu, bookmarks, set bookmark, you have the shortcut from Ctrl-0 to Ctrl-9. So let's say I like this view, I press Ctrl-0, and here it says saved bookmark 0. Let's say I like this view, I press Ctrl-9 and save the new bookmark. So now anytime I press on 0, it will take me here. Anytime I press on 9, it will take me here. This is great, especially to navigate between large projects. Now, let's say, because now we know if you do this and take screenshot, it will be different from doing this. To preserve taking screenshots the easy way or consistently, you can go to the burger menu again, create a new camera, cinematic camera actor, and it's really recommended to create 5 or 6 cameras at the start of your project and make these cameras your main cameras where you focus and finish ASAP, or your hero elements. So let's say this is definitely one of the hero elements in our project. I remember there is a separator here. It's a chaminé, but we will add it later. So let's put our camera here and let's press on, for now, Ctrl S. I might change this later, that's totally fine. We can go to burger menu, high resolution screenshot, image as timestamp, and capture the image. Now, Let's say you don't want to move your camera, whether you are in this view or inside the camera by mistake. So I'm gonna do this and I will switch to this camera. Let's say you don't want for this to happen, because sometimes if you press Ctrl Z, you simply cannot undo your camera movements. So I'm not sure if this is a bug, but it is what it is. I'm trying to press Ctrl Z, but as you can see, there is no way to switch back to my view. So maybe you want to lock your camera movement. To do that, you can right-click any actor you want to lock, go to Transform, and select Lock Actor Movement. And now the gizmo disappeared, and we cannot move this camera. So let's go here. This is grayed out. And if we switch to the camera, try to move it, as you can see, we simply just cannot move it. We cannot move. It sucks, but it is what it is. If you want to unlock, well, I'm kidding. It's amazing that we have this. So if you want to unlock, you can right-click the same actor, transform, and untick this. For now, I'm going to keep it locked. What's a healthy practice is to every now and then open the word outliner and make new folders for what's important. So let's say, yes, we will need cameras. The post-process volume can go within the lighting. The meshes can go within the project, or for now, just keep it or delete it. So keep your word outliner organized always. It's really important. So once you clean up your word outliner, you have a lovely project. It doesn't matter where it is. You have your folders, your lighting, your post-process volume, and you think you're ready. I will see you in the next section. In order to continue our training, let's talk about Fab. If you are using Unreal Engine and if you're looking for a place where you can find 3D models, images, sound effects, blueprints, assets of anything you can think of, all of this exists on the marketplace. So if you go to fab.com, this is a place where it collects many previous marketplaces like ArtStation Marketplace, the Quixel Megascans, Company, Sketchfab, and I'm not sure if others, Epic Games, Unreal Engine Marketplace as well, and more. They are all here, from music to 3D assets to visual effects and so on. In order to start using the assets we see here inside Unreal Engine, we need the Fab plugin installed on our engine. So if you open Epic Games Launcher, this will work on 5.3, 5.4 and moving forward. So this does not work on older versions of Unreal Engine. If you scroll down in your library to Fab library, here you can type Fab. You're gonna see the Fab UE plugin. If you don't see this, try to refresh the Fab items. Click on install to the engine and then click on the version you want to install this plugin to. In our case, 5.4 for now, so I'm going to click on uninstall. So this is 35 megabytes. Give it a few seconds. If you click here on downloads, it finished and now it's setting things up. And once it finishes, we can open our project. So I'm going to click here, type for a code for my projects and open the project and give it a few seconds. Here we are in Unreal Engine. If you go to content drawer, here you're going to see a new icon for Fab. So click on it and this will open a new panel for us. I will put this panel here and I'm going to open our level. So I'm going to click on my project. I will click on maps and I will right click and add this to my favorites. So add to favorites. And if I expand this here, I can see maps. So every time I click here, wherever I am, I click here, I can see this here. Double click to open it. This is our level now. And since we're talking about favorites, we also have collections. So any asset you like, you can right click that asset and add it to a collection. But before we do that, we need to add a collection first. So we can add a local collection and we say maps. And now we can go back to our map. You can either click and release here or right click and find something that has to do with collections. So it should be under collections, manage collections, or open a C+ file. So this is not for us. Yeah, so here manage collections. The more collections you have, the more items you can add. So let's say this is another map we want to add to this collection. Now, if you click here, you're gonna see we have two maps. If I don't want this, I can do this and manage collections and just simply remove it. So now we have favorites, collections, and you also know about your content browser. So let's switch to Fab. And now you know why we talked about collections and favorites, because if you download so many assets, you want to make it easy for you to see what you download and organize them and reuse them across your project or other projects. I would like for an interior shot and to quickly replace the materials we have here using Quixel materials or some other materials. And I will also show you how we can fix such issues with the modeling tools in Unreal, or how we can re-import changes we do in our DCC applications to Unreal Engine. So let's continue. Let's go to Fab. And if you go to the tab, you're gonna see here featured Unreal Engine products. And these are the same featured products we used to see on the marketplace. Under here, we have Quixel products. And right now, all Quixel products can be claimed for free. And under that, we have the UE samples. So we don't have any of the UE samples and some other tabs in the Epic Games launcher. Everything now is in Fab Marketplace. If you scroll down a little, here we can see some filters, and these are very important. So education and tutorials, Quixel, or based on the creator. So filters are the best way to search for assets in the Fab Marketplace. This works the same as Quixel Marketplace in a way. And you can search by relevance, popularity, and other filters. Under here, if you are looking for specific files, so because they merged the marketplace with many other marketplaces, you can say I want JLTF or FPX or other filters. So we have Unity. Wow, look how many Unreal Engine we have. So in this scenario, because this is an Unreal Engine, we have all these Unreal versions for the assets. Unity and other engines, they are supported on the website. As for here, you can see the target platforms. So PC, PlayStation, HTML, the price. And yeah, these are the exact same filters we used to have before. And I don't think there is anything on HTML. I'm actually interested. What do we have? Yeah, very simple 2D assets, nothing really. Now, let's find Quixel assets. So type in the search for something like Quixel or Quixel material. There is no Quixel filter, unfortunately, so we need to find them. Let's go to the tab view, and here we can see free. So these are Quixel assets. Let's click on any of the assets here. So Norway Maple. If you don't have Norway Maple in your library and other Quixel assets, you need to claim all of them. And to claim all of Quixel assets, it can be done with just one click. So claim now, we can do it together. Take me home. So this is not working for me. I think I can do it later. But in your case, if you have the same problem, let's talk about it. Let's try that again. So I'm going to search for Quixel. Let's select any of the grass types here and see if we have the same button. So click on it here again. I'm going to try from the web. I think the claim option is not working because we still need to sign in. So here, if you click, you can see it will open a web page for you. You can sign in. And once you sign in, you can claim the assets. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, now I am signed in. I will click on claim now and let's hope it will work. Oopsie, it will not work, at least for now. And one more final time, let's click on claim. Looks like it will not work. What you can do in this case, you can go to the web, fab.com, sign in and click on claim now here. Claim Megascans free. Let's see if this will work from here. Yeah, claimed finally. There we go, after 5 times. Let's go back to Unreal Engine, click on take me home, and here we are again. So if we search here for Quixel again, click on any of the assets. This might update later. This might be something has to do with the login. I should see my name initials, but it's weird. I will find the surface. So let's type, for example, wall. Now we're finding different types of materials, and let's say we want just Quixel materials. Click on Quixel creators here, and let's say we want 2D assets, so we can add that filter as well. Yeah, this is kind of buggy, or it's the filters here, so let's reset the filters. So Until they fix the search in better ways, here's a way I recommend. You can go back to the homepage, search for something like a floor, and you're gonna see some of the materials by Quixel. Click on one of them. So let's find something we like, perhaps concrete floor. Let's say this. If you scroll down, you can see some tags we can use, and we can see more from Quixel. And if we look here, we can add this and download it to our project. Before you download any asset, you can set the quality of the asset. So click here and you can find 4 types of quality: low, medium, high, and raw. So I believe this is 1K, 2K, 4K, and 8K. Medium quality, this should be good for now. If we like this, we can add to the project and we need to agree to the user agreement. So let's do that. We just simply need to download any asset and it will add that asset to our library. Simple stuff. So let's go back and search Quixel again. So what you need to do to claim any asset, when you click on claim and you get some errors, you need to simply add that asset to your project, click on accept agreement, and then things will be claimed. All 16, 17, 18,000 assets. Now, since we downloaded a concrete floor asset, let's go and find it in our project. Did we add it to the project yet? No, it's not in the project. So let's go to the Fab library here, click on the burger menu, and we can go to my library. This is another way to explore your assets. In this case, let's see if there is a filter for the material. So here is materials and textures. Here it seems buggy. I have 2 Quixel assets and the rest are my Unreal assets. So we can go back to the asset we want to download. I believe this will improve step by step. I will be a little patient on it and I will show you some other resources where you can download assets. So I'm going to type floor, concrete, find something that will work for us for now. So let's say this concrete floor. It looks polished, I hope. Yeah, it's okay. Placeholder. Let's click here to see the mapping of the texture. Let's say add to project. This will download and it should import to the project. So now when you add any asset to your project, if you press Ctrl space, you're going to see a new folder called Fab. In the past, we used to have like Quixel Megascans and some other types of folders. Now it's called Fab. And here we have Megascans, surfaces. We have the surfaces we downloaded. So Fab, the logo. This is another texture in medium quality, so this is 2K. And if you click on the material instance, you can see that we have another view of the material. It's not the one with the nodes, that's the parent material, the master material. And if you double click that, you're going to see a material output with some interesting inputs. So this is something we will discuss later. I will close this. And now all you need to know is that you can assign this on your project. So we can select the floor and assign it here. We can click and search for the material we've downloaded or the materials we added earlier or any materials you can migrate to your project so you can take materials and assets between Unreal projects. And as we scroll, we can see these 2 materials we downloaded. So there is this. If you apply it, you're gonna see it. And if you click again, there is this other material. And they both look stretchy. So why don't we fix that first? I will press on the mode here, mode type. We have selection mode, landscape mode, foliage mode, and other modes. What's important is the modeling mode. So if you don't have modeling mode enabled by default, you should go to Edit, Plugins, and here search for modeling, and you're going to find Modeling Tools Editor mode. Once you enable it, restart your engine, you should be able to see modeling and you should be able to see this mode here. Now, since our object is selected, we can go to UVs and we can go to project UVs and switch the projection type to box. Now, this can affect even these parts that we don't see, but it's okay. That's what I want. And now I can switch the dimensions to 100 by 100. The mapping is much better. Click accept, and now if I assign my materials, so here's another way. You can simply click and drag your material on the object and you should see the result. So we can download more materials and assign them on the walls and whatnot. And if you want to do any changes, this is something we will discuss in the materials lessons, but here we have so many instances and things we can update. Anytime I want to be more comfortable with the new program, I try to make something. So in the upcoming 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we will try to create something. And we will do that just entirely in Unreal Engine and with the help of the Fab Marketplace. So the Fab Marketplace on Unreal is kind of buggy or it's kind of slow. So I highly recommend if you're new to the marketplace here to use the web version. It's really much faster and you can, as you can see, whew, just one click, that's it. And yeah, so if you want to get started with this, you can see what product types are there on this marketplace. And if you're looking for materials and textures, this is what we need to click on to build our scene a little. From here, we can still go with the filters. I suggest don't go downstairs yet, so let's go with building human made. This can be a good start. And here we can see other filters, asphalt, commercial, concrete, and wood, and so on. So let's click on wood. And once we are out of categories, now we need to start using search. So here I can type Quixel, and as you can see, we have all these types of wood from floor and so on. So you can refine your search from here. This wood texture is something nice. I would click on it. And if I want this in Unreal Engine, what I want to search for is the code for this, if they have it somewhere. If they don't, let's see the link. Nope, it will not work. So we can literally take the name and see how it will work in Unreal. So let's go back to here and let's search the exact same name here. Give it a few seconds and there we go. These are similar textures and I hope this is the texture we chose. And it seems like, yes, this is the one. So this is Unreal, this is the one. I didn't download from the browser because from here, if you click download, you can actually download even the source files. So many things you can download from here depending on the type of file you're also downloading. So this is just good to know. In Quixel assets, Quixel materials, we are using now, if I show you the type of texture, ORM. So this is ambient occlusion, roughness, and metallic. We don't get the height maps. And to get the height maps, you can find them from here. You can click download, download the texture set, and the height map will be within that, or the row here. So let's go to Unreal, and let's go to Fab. Let's add this to the project. Medium quality is good. It will open for us here. This is also good. Now click and drag, and let's see how this looks on the floor as an option. This looks nice. Now, we can do the same search here if we want. So we can go back to this building human made and under or next to search. First, let's go to marble and granite. And now we can type Quixel here. Give it a few seconds. Now hit enter. This is kind of the best way to find Quixel assets with the new marketplace. And if I learn anything new, I will show you. So moving forward, I think this looks nice. And yes, I like it. So let's make sure it's medium and let's add it to the project. And now we can try and assign it here. And look at that. So this is just a placeholder, okay? We need something for the ceiling and for the walls and for the floors. So let's go to Fab. Maybe we can find another marble and we can even define our view and the lighting. So I want something like close up on this space here with nice light getting in the area here. And from there we can see what we want. So this is not really about the whole area. This is about creating a small scene as a quick practice to get really comfortable in Unreal. So let's go to Fab and let's type Quixel again. Let's find something nice for the close up. This marble is interesting. Let's say this. And since this is a close up, we can go with higher quality. So I'm going to go with high and I'm going to add to project. So give it a few seconds. And now let's see how this looks. We may need to fix the mapping. So let's double check. Yeah, the mapping actually is fine. We can assign the texture here and let's open the material instance, make it smaller, and let's explore these parameter groups. So a material instance allows us to change our material in real time, and we can create all these parameter values when we are creating our material. We have global, we have something to do with tiling. We can make them bigger or smaller or tiling more. So let's say I want this to be big, reduce it less than 1. If I want tiling, it's 1, 2 tilings, 3, 4, and so on. You can go to the base color if you want to increase the brightness, saturation, or multiply it, tint it with the color. We can do that as well. Specular, ORM, and normal. Specular is for the reflections, the specularity of our object. Usually we keep this exactly on 0.5. We don't play with this. Now ORM, as I said, ambient occlusion, roughness, and metallic. So depending on the texture we choose, it might have some different options. So let's see if this have an option for the AO. I'm not sure how much strength or anything. Yeah, I'm certain there is nothing here. We can actually check. So you can click on the texture and this will open for you the texture viewer. And from here, you can check the channels. So R for ambient occlusion, G, green for roughness, and B for metallic. This is a non-metallic texture, therefore it's black. We'll talk more about materials as we go. So right now, we know there is no AO, so keep this at 0. Now for roughness is how reflective this surface is. So I will put this window here so we can see what's happening. And I will scroll to the mean and the max roughness and simply play with these numbers. Be curious. So if I increase this number away from 0, we can see the roughness is also decreasing. And this looks really cool, by the way, if I may say. And what I want to do is to press Ctrl L to bring the sun from here, because why not? And I will show you a cool trick. Click on the sun so you can search for the directional light. Go to lighting if you don't have, or search for directional light. Select that and the source angle, take this from 0.5 to something like 2 or 5. So we can see the smoothness of the shadow of the sun. It's happening in real time. So let me show you the sun when we move it. So I will reduce this. This is now smaller, and the more you get it bigger, the bigger it will get. 50, that's massive. So let's say 12. Wow. So now if we play with the sun again, yeah, let's say this is a beautiful view. Let's set this to 6. I will assign the same material on the ceiling here, and that's one of the beauties of Lumen, the indirect lighting and global illumination. We will talk that more in lighting, but in a nutshell, all parts that don't get light, how they get affected with the light. So the fact that this is happening in real time, it's just beautiful. We used to wait for long times for any light change we need to do, especially if your project is big. You could wait for days. I'm talking like big by now, massive. But light bake can take from few minutes to few hours, and yeah, it's a painful process. So it's beautiful to see everything happens the moment you change anything. I'm going to create a camera. So create a new camera, cinematic camera actor. Click, select the cinematic camera actor. So it's called camera 0. I selected camera 1, and I will set the focal length to a larger number. We can do that. Or if you also want to be more specific on the cinematic cameras, so let's click here and scroll up to move it. Wow, that's too much up, so I'm going to click on escape to deselect and right click, move to cameras. This way I can keep my project organized as I go, and I'm going to say close up. You can switch the lens settings to any setting you like. So 50mm, 85mm, with a specific f-stop number. This is something between 70 and 200 if you want to zoom in. So this is beautiful. It's just simulating the real world lenses. Let's try and find a lovely view. Yeah, let's say this is nice. And let's say we want better focus. You can click on focus settings, and you can either click on the eyedropper tool and select wherever you want to focus, like so, or you can change this manually. And if you want to better see what's happening, you can click on draw debug focus plane. This will draw a focus plane for us. Wherever we're here, So this is in 100% focus and everything else is out of focus. So that's cool. So let's say I want to place my camera here and I want to focus all the way here. Let's just imagine, right? Let's go back to Fab and let's go to the home page or my library since I have some assets from Quixel. Or I'm curious if we just simply type architecture in the Discover. You can set the price to be just free and I want to type photogrammetry. This is not the way. So photogrammetry, architecture, we get results from Fab. So these are some, not from Quixel, but I'm just testing different searches. So I wonder if we put like a comma, would we get something different? Or let's just type Quixel, of course. And instead of architecture, we could try archviz. So this is not really, it's much harder to find Quixel assets now. That's kind of sucks, but I'm sure it will improve. So take this part with a grain of salt. What we want to find is a simple 3D model, and we want to go to buildings and architecture, and let's find something really small. So this is only about buildings. Okay, let's go back one step. So any category you visit, as long as you put Quixel, it will find you the most relevant assets for Quixel. And that's a good start. So this is what we have in furniture and fixtures, at least for now. I will go back to 3D models. Let's select tools, objects, and decor. Quixel, we still have this. And now we get some interesting objects. And yes, I'm almost finding what I'm looking for. So this wooden pole is really nice. I will click here and yep, I like it. So click on the download quality. Raw quality is the highest quality. Low obviously is the lowest. In this case, I'm going to go with medium quality. I will add this to my project. It's importing now and it opened the asset here. So we can go to the level and add this. And check this out. Let's find any plants or any planters so we can take another step back. And let's see, we have small concrete planter. This also looks very cool. So let's download and add this as well. Add it for testing. We can reduce the scale of this object if we want. Let's take another step back to find another asset. Oops, here's a step forward. So here's what you want to do. You just simply need to go on the Fab marketplace and try to find assets from Quixel and other creators. Maybe when you add a different specific creator name, you will find interesting things. I will definitely be sharing more tips on Quixel and the Fab marketplace as we go. And you definitely want to check out the downloads section in our website if you want something to get you started. Sorry about the shameless plug, but I had to say it. So here's a nice book. The exercise here, what you want to do is to explore the internet for assets and things you can easily, or with some work, import in Unreal Engine and bring them together and try to create something and try maybe to tell a story. So now I actually like this. So choose different assets, different things, and download what interests you, and maybe you can add it to your scene. So I will add this. Maybe we can add the planter on top of it. We can now zoom out more, have some, so I don't know, like there is a lot we can do. And that's why we need like specific camera angle or two. But yes, I'm thinking like if the camera was here, maybe there is something here. Maybe here is a planter or something with vegetables and here some plants. That's what you want to do with the Fab marketplace or any marketplace. You can import your assets. If you're a 3D artist, you make your own assets. Try to create small scenes quick. The thing about Unreal Engine, if you work on this project everywhere at once, you will not finish it. It will be really hard. But if you work on small parts of it, starting like this, small step, then bigger, that will definitely help much more. Of course, if you're just practicing, I'm saying here, but if you have a real project with a real plan, then you should go for it everywhere. But if you're practicing, if you're learning, don't go so big. Even if you've downloaded this as one of the sample projects, don't go so big. Start, step by step. So the same here, we'll keep repeating. I'm going to search for assets and I'm going to place them and I'm going to see if I can create something nice. Alright, so that's it for part 1. I love cookies, I cannot help it. I will see you in part 2, where we're going to talk about Cesium, how we can locate our projects in the real world, how we can use Cesium tools in Unreal Engine, and answer many questions inside your head.